Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. It is Markets in the Morning. Let's go. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the Blockchain Backer, bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Welcome to Markets in the Morning. Today is Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024. This is Markets in the Morning, where we take a look at the price action of the Bitcoin price chart, the cryptocurrency market, including the altcoin market. We'll take a peek over there at the United States stock market, which is set to open up here in 3 minutes from right now. We'll peek over there at gold, which of course has just been on an absolute tear that just won't stop. The DXY, or the US dollar currency index, same story, absolute tear that just won't stop. And then we'll take a peek over there at financial news and crypto news as we get ready to kick off the third best day of the week behind Friday and Saturday. Happy Wednesday, everybody.
It is Wednesday, my dudes. It is Wednesday, my dudes. It is Wednesday, my dudes. It is Wednesday, my dudes.
All right. What's going on, everybody? Thank you all so much for tuning in to Markets in the Morning. Wednesday's live streams. We do these things every week just to kind of take a peek at the market live and hang out with you guys. It looks like as we get ready for the stock market to open up here in 2 minutes from right now, it looks like we will have a down day over there in the stock market. Dow Jones will be down about 275 points, NASDAQ 100 points, S&P 500 about 23 points, Russell 2000 down 7 points to kick off the day. Of course, for the cryptocurrency market, really ever since last Thursday, October 10th, so that we went on like an 11-day win streak in there for crypto, shifting its way back up in there. I had kind of talked about that in the weeks prior. That, I just didn't, I think we probably will see like an ABC correction, but I wasn't convinced that really this one was it yet. Decent chance that we've kind of started it. I've kind of talked about, my bigger concerns being kind of like what sentiment would be like in the event that we go into something like that. I'm just kind of going into it with the mindset of that this could take a minute, but I just don't think we're unbelievably crashing, right? I do know, right? A lot of us, of course, have sat there and watched this whole thing for the longest time. The idea of this being a massive retracement happening in here, that even though Bitcoin set a new all-time high, markets have just really been mirroring much more of that being a retracement. Of course, in the altcoin market, we saw a retracement. Of course, concerns being constantly, why has the Russell 2000 not expanded? We'll kind of like tie a lot of that idea together. I've really spent the last week just kind of formulating my thesis, and I've quite early. I'm already starting to work on the next newsletter and trying to formulate my whole thesis, but just kind of the synopsis of understanding what's happened in here and really what type of market are we actually partaking in here right now. This is not 2013. This is not 2017. This is not 2021. In those time periods, we see expansions happen in broader markets altogether, and having to conceptually come up with the idea of what could be happening in here. When we see markets do things like this, we haven't really seen this level of extreme outside of really kind of two events over at this level of extreme. One of them, of course, being pre-C19. We did see something like this, and then everything crashed and burned, which of course is what all of this is, right? But it's not the only time that we have had that. We actually ended up having that happen in the dot-com bubble back in 1998 through 2000. And really, there's a lot more similarities happening right now to something like that than really C19. So it's a long-standing thesis, and we'll go through a lot of that in the coming weeks here on the YouTube channel. But there's really only in expansionary markets, you just don't do this. There's really several times throughout history where things kind of like this have happened. For example, like the Nifty 50 back in the late 1960s and early 1970s, where the breadth did something like this. The breadth was doing something like this prior to the Black Monday 1987 crash. It was doing something kind of like this, not to the extreme, prior to the Great Financial Crisis. It was doing it at the peak of the 1998 through 2000 dot-com bubble, and it was doing it, of course, prior to C19. And so trying to figure out, what kind of market are we actually trading in here or investing in or watching? My grand thesis that will, go into it is I don't think we are trading an expansionary market as we did in 2013, 2017, and 2021. I fully believe this is a different market. And it doesn't mean that we won't end up seeing something along the lines of like this happening for the crypto market, where it does go off into a push like this. However, I think that this would actually be more of a rotational play coming out of big tech. And instead of it being like a broad-based rally where everything in the market's expanding together because everything is so great and gravy and wonderful, it actually does. It's more of like the consolidation into big tech has been so massive. The top 5 assets in the S&P 500 represent 28% of the S&P. That's never happened before. It's way more extreme than it was like in the dot-com bubble where the top 5 represented like 14%. Right now they represent like 28%. And the mirrors of what's happening here is much more similar to that. We are trading the top of an equity bubble. And when you get near the top of an equity bubble, we do see things happen like this, where this breadth just really solidifies itself into a few assets. Then initial profit taking happens on those assets. And then you see kind of a rotational play that happens throughout that. And then boom, that's the end of it. So in the coming weeks, I'll do better than yesterday, Monday's video. Monday's video was kind of like a ramble. I was having a hard time kind of like putting my words together on how I'm viewing it, but it is kind of like an epiphany has happened in here to say, hey, look, there's some weird dynamic happening in the market. You don't do this unless there's something weird happening, and it's not like an expansionary period, and it's not. You just don't do this. You only do this under specific circumstances of, either SHTF. Or in periods where like the final legs of bubbles are being printed and it's getting really consolidated into specific assets. And I do think that's kind of what we're seeing. So we'll elaborate more on that in the coming weeks on what those types of things look like. But for people who can really reflect on something like that, and unfortunately not most people here can, because I've done polls in here to ask how many people were here in prior to 2021, and only 1/3 of people were here prior to 2021. And I can bet that number is far fewer of who were here in like July, August, and September of 2017. I know a lot of people came in in the big rally at the end of 2017 and early 2018, but not a lot of people who were here in August, September, and October of 2017. And at that point, we were witnessing a similar behavior happening like in Bitcoin, where Bitcoin was printing this big bubble and it had gotten through $10,000. It got to $13,000, $14,000, $15,000, $16,000, $17,000, and nothing was moving. It was just the big boy Bitcoin going, and everything was getting left behind. The breadth in the crypto market was absolute trash. And then the second the profit taking started on Bitcoin there at $17,000, that's when the breadth really opened up throughout the rest of the market. So for those who were here during that time, you can maybe reflect on that and what that was like. And there just seems to be a lot more confluence to that happening right now, especially, when we look at things and we're talking about like gold. Why is gold doing this? Why is gold in a new 13-year high? This isn't something that's happened in expansions, but more of like there's already a rotation already starting to happen out of those things. But when we go back to what it really was like when that top of that bubble was printed, and like we've been kind of beating our heads a lot lately, right? Being like, how do we get out of here? How do we do this? Because the only example we have since the great financial crisis is C19. That's all we've got, right? And in that circumstance, when this occurred, lights out, game over. That was the result that happened in here, right? And of course, we're still not out of the woods on something like that happening. But how do we end up getting a result that isn't that? And it would have to be along the lines of something like this occurring, right? Where it finally gets back here, you got all the indexes up in here, but the Russell's still sitting back here at the retraces, unable to get through. And then there's one more push. And so you say, well, what were the circumstances surrounding this type of environment that was happening in broader markets? It was a tech bubble, right? It's a dot-com bubble. And what are we in right now, right? We're in the Amazon, the NVIDIA, the Google, the Netflix, right? The tech bubble is happening right now with massive consolidation into the top, into just a few assets that are propping up the whole stock market with the worst breadth, even worse than in this environment. And what eventually ended up happening, right, is eventually the profit taking started, and then a rotational play ended up happening in here. So conceptually, the idea of it being like, hey, look, there's probably going to end up being some type of profit taking and rotation that happens in here. But I think a lot of the market may believe we are seeing things like 2013, 2017, and 2021 where we're going into expansions, but it's not. It may be actually just kind of short-lived. It could still be big, but it would just end up being short-lived. And so we'll elaborate on that more. But I think everybody, you're going to have some kind of thesis on why this is happening, right? And you can draw conclusions based on historical justifications on why these events did occur. Where you see things like this happen, they don't happen in expansions. They happen when tops of bubbles are happening. They happen before flash crashes like C19, flash crashes like 1987, the Nifty 50 of the 60s and 70s. They don't occur in expansions. And so you try to draw parallels between, well, what is very similar right now to historical time periods. And it does seem to be much more confluent with what it was like in 1998 through 2000. And so that's really the bullish argument happening in here, but to keep it in the mindset and mind frame of it being a rotational play rather than actually being a true expansion happening. And so we've talked about this before. I'm being like, hey, if the Russell ends up getting out, I'm not so convinced like the Russell's going to go to the moon, but the Russell has, of course, been just shy of its 4.236 extension. It's not far to get to its 4.236 extension up here. We'll put it on a new chart real quick. I just don't want to mess any of these up. Which one am I willing to mess up? I'll mess up this one. Right, you could see something like the Russell just kind of get its way out and just kind of barely get above, and that's it. And that would actually be incredibly consistent with what also happened in 1998 through 2000. And I do think everybody is just leaning on history of Bitcoin cycles and block reward halvings, and every 4 years we do this because of this. But to recognize the macro environment is super different from 2013, 2017, and 2021. There is not common to be doing things like this. And so trying to find those parallels of what they could possibly mean and what it has meant in 1998 through 2000 is it was a consolidation into just a couple of assets. And then once those assets started taking some profits, there was a rotational play that happened that was short-lived, but it was not a true expansion. It was more of just everything getting out. And, you have to tie in this element in here of what's happening with gold at the same time. Same thing, right? So I'm not here to paint gloom and doom. It actually, in that event, it still follows along with those things we've talked about in here. There's probably still some consolidation in here. Goes nuts. It's fun. But there's going to be a lot of narratives out there of being like, hey, we've just started. There's still a lot of time left in it. And just having to kind of look at it through that lens of what's up. So anyway, I thought I'd share that with you and give you a little bit of food for thought on things that I've been doing over the last couple of days when it's come to looking at all of this. Bitcoin. There you go. Otherwise, as for Bitcoin's price action, talk about this. Not surprising, see a little bit of correcting in here. We've kind of talked about this through the lens of something like this, right? Of course, that takes into the ideas of the Bitcoin structure happening in here. It would be perfectly normal that there is just a lot of fighting that has to happen in here and a lot of washing machining that has to happen along here, right? So this, of course, is the inverse perspective of what Bitcoin does look like you can look at that through that lens as well. Lots of ugly fighting that would have to happen throughout here. I would not be surprised if we have to, especially since it has confluence to the Russell seeming like it's probably going to have to end up doing that right there as well. And the altcoin market having to do that there as well. Some fighting along in here. So I don't think I really do not lean on this. I'm aware of it. If it happens, it's going to be like, well, that sucks. We knew it was there, but hoped it wouldn't happen. I just don't think it will, especially when we talk about it through the lens of stuff like this, that when we got to that, when we were like that back in 2020, we were in a period of euphoria. We were like March of this year, and then boom, the rug got pulled out from underneath the market after a period of extreme excitement. We don't have that. I've even spent this morning, I knew I was going to be saying this here in Markets in the Morning. I'm like, let me confirm, because I look around, I know there's no euphoria. You could tell by engagement rates. You could tell on Twitter. You could see how many people like bearish stuff versus not, right? If you talked anything about this type of stuff back in March, you were the devil, right? Now you talk about it, it's okay, right? Yeah, but yeah, it's okay, right? It's okay. We're going to go down. That's cool. That's fine. So the sentiment has been washed. And of course, I've checked things like Google Trends this morning to see what are people searching for crypto, Bitcoin, everything like that. It's nowhere, right? Like there's no excitement. There's no euphoria, things like that eventually, boom, then the market just rug pulls from underneath of it. And we go into something very aggressive. So, to sit here and say, hey, I think we're going to do that right now. Well, the market just isn't set up similarly to that style event like we had back then. Of course, it's mid-cycle and everything like that. We all know we're approaching the election here in 15 days or something like that. I don't know how many days it is, but it's getting close. Is it 50? How many days is it? 13? I don't know. So anyway, I don't think it's I think it's more likely that we actually are just going to be machining around in here, and that has confluence with things that we've talked about in here for the altcoin market, kind of washing, machining around in here. So more concerns I have are just more of like what sentiment can be like. Can people handle that? How toxic is it going to get? It's going to get toxic. It always does. But I think people will probably reach the end of the road of how much they can handle. One of those interesting things, though, of course, has been MicroStrategy, MSTR. This thing has been in that Wyckoff accumulation up in here. This thing, of course, has already gotten out in here. All phases of Wyckoff being played out in here. Absolutely incredible to see. I've put one of Bitcoin's Wyckoff accumulations on here as well, just so you can kind of visualize what those do look like, all those phases that happen down in here, getting through. MicroStrategy already in the all-time high. It's that is yet to happen for Bitcoin. Bitcoin tends to be right on line with MicroStrategy. So we pointed to this last couple of weeks. We'll see if Bitcoin has a little bit of a catch-up. It's still kind of in the thoughts here, though, that we're probably just going to wash around in here while people sit here and argue and scream over which way we're going to go. Are we going to crash or are we going to go up? And I think the most likely path is psychological warfare. And that's what that would be, right? So anyway, things like, again, and then looking at it from these perspectives too, right? Like, again, we're talking about stuff like this. We've seen all these things play out in here in the market. It just doesn't, I don't see it throughout the market of being like, hey, we're gonna see 19 crash from right here. I just don't see it. I think a washing machine action in there seems more likely to me. All right, moving on. We've talked about Bitcoin. Talked about the Russell. And altcoins not flashing like we are doing C19. XRP still sitting in here. Absolutely nothing has happened with price action since October 3rd as we still sit in here. My thoughts are we're probably gonna sweep that low before it can. My thoughts are we will eventually sweep it. But what I think is we'd actually take it back really quick. And I don't like predicting short-term time frames. But I've spent some time looking around. I just think we're going to try to liquidity grab it and then push it right back in really quickly. I don't think it'll be a breakdown. I think it'll just be a liquidity grab really fast and then pulls right back in, and then waiting, of course, for everything to go, because that's when it's going to go. Now, XRP, of course, has had some exciting stuff going on with it, with First Ledger launching. I don't have a relationship with them. I'm not sponsored by them. I don't have an affiliate link or a referral link for First Ledger, but meme coins finally are available over there on the XRP ledger. It's been fun. I've been testing it and playing around with it. Of course, it is gambling. Do not mistake it for anything else, and you will get rug pulled if you play it in that game. But there's a market for that. I do understand, like the audience I'm speaking to, there's 1,700 people listening right now. 1,700 of you are like, I don't care. But what you have to understand is not every product is a match for every person, right? It's for a segment of the population. And there's a segment of the crypto market who really likes doing that. And whether or not you do, it increases user activity levels. It increases TVL. I guarantee you, when we start seeing reports come out from XP Market here in the next week or two, reflecting on the trend change of how much TVL, total value locked on the XRP ledger, is coming out due to this, guaranteed it's going to be going up. User activity levels and how many users are participating in the network, guaranteed it's going to be going up. So those things will be happening. And so it'll be exciting to see how that goes. Finally, seeing some action happen over there. And I'm sure there'll be competitive products and other things that come out to compete with First Ledger. But either way, finally, there's something there. And that is pretty cool. So otherwise, we still just wait for expansions to happen over in here. Structurally, I mean, we could sit here and draw parallels between all types of ending periods on here for XRP. It seems like it's at the finishing line, but we know that even for example, just looking at things on how they look, right? Does this structure look familiar to you? It looks exactly like what we're looking at, right? Even in here, there was a quick little flush that happened in here. But, right, it's just long and drawn out. And the thing that we have to have in the whole market is an expansionary crypto phase. And so I know that it is the most unsexy thing to say to XRP holders, and me being one of them. But I do understand this is not an independently moving asset. This is an asset that does move with the rest of the market. And so we're waiting for that expansionary risk on rotational moment in time to happen. But I'm optimistic. And I think when people talk about Ripple this, Ripple that, Ripple's going to save the planet, at this point, I just ignore all of that news. It means literally nothing to me. Seeing things like finally users are participating, TVL activity, people are talking about it and interested in it. There's Twitter spaces all over the place now where people are talking about it, what's going on over there on XRP. Now you can do stuff over there. That is what's important, and I like seeing that. So that makes me more bullish to see things like that happening. Outside of gold, right? So let's move on over. I think that covers our crypto stuff in there. So again, likely just chop consolidation happening in here. These are kind of my thoughts of what we're really actually doing in here, which would be kind of a little bounce around for some time in here. And we've talked about that with the altcoin market, probably ABCing in here and just kind of watching for a little while and psychologically being tough for people. We've talked about all the stuff with the RTY, how it seems unlikely that you're going to COVID crash from here, which of course we've essentially already done. And that's kind of how I described it when we were back there, that this is like C19 crash, which at this point has now pretty much done it. So calling for the C19 crash now, after we're here, hard to do, especially when the market already looks like this. I think it's really just going to be chop. All right, moving over to gold. Gold, obviously, we're still waiting for it to stop in here in order for there to be something to happen in broader markets. These things just don't tend to go into expansions together. We've never seen expansions happening. We do see 5 waves that have happened in here, so that could have been the end of it. We talked about this in Markets in the Morning last week. I do believe, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That seems to be it. I think we were like right here during Markets in the Morning. Yeah, Wednesday, October 16th. It seemed like, hey, there might be a 5th wave in here. Now it does appear that all 5 waves could be done. So now we need to see this thing just chill. However, I don't think it's chilling for long. I think, if we get a a big move in the markets happening during that type of a chill move. I wouldn't count gold out as being done at that point. It's just taking a breather. As for the DXY, this thing just keeps on ripping right back up ever since its bottom back over here on October 1st. I think the Fed did its cut was on like the 17th or 18th or something like that was when they did that cut. And then, dollar strength, right? Moving over here to what the market expects in regards to the next rate cut, which is supposed to be coming out in just a couple of weeks, 15 days from right now. Market has a 90% probability on that we will see one rate cut or a 25 basis point rate cut then. We could take a peek at that right now. One thing that we've watched has been that 2-month yield has done a decent job of kind of predicting it. 2-month yield still undecided on it. What we're going to have. It doesn't really cut another 25 basis points. So I agree. I don't, right now, the market is not saying it's going to be anything more than 25 basis points. And of course, that's going to bring up the big question of did they do that because of the election, right? This meeting is going to take place, a day or two after the election? When is the election? The election is on the 5th. So that's 13 days away from right now. Their meeting is on the 7th. So, they do a 50 basis point rate cut at their meeting before the election. Then they don't have another meeting until the 7th. And so we'll see. Market's not convinced that they're going to do a tremendous amount of cutting after that. So we'll see how that goes. When it comes to the news over here, Coca-Cola tops earnings estimates as higher prices offset sluggish demand. McDonald's shares fall after CDC says E. coli outbreak linked to quarter pounders. You don't think that's like an October surprise after what happened 2 days ago, right? Make the call. All right, Starbucks shares slide after coffee chain says sales fall again, suspends outlook. JPM Securities upgrade Snap amid app revamp, says shares can rally 70%. Okay, Norway's $1.8 trillion wealth fund issues stock market warning. Thanks. Yeah, Coca-Cola tops earnings. Okay, that's cool. All right, who's afraid of Gary Gensler? Not Don Wilson, the trader who beat the regulator once before. Gensler's SEC has been vague about how crypto firms can register to legally trade digital assets in the U.S. Chicago-based markets. Giant Don Wilson thinks that's a strategy. Okay, as Bitcoin nears Golden Cross, concerns about rising treasury yields look overhyped. Look, Golden Crosses, death crosses, none of that stuff means anything for Bitcoin. Nothing like death cross has typically marked a bottom. Golden cross has typically marked a top. Do not look at it. Go look for yourself. Don't look at it through the lens of getting all hyped up because something happens or getting all paranoid because something happens when it comes to these crosses. All right, Doge, XRP, lead crypto majors decline as Bitcoin ETFs bleed 80 million. The broad-based CoinDesk 20, a liquid index tracking the largest tokens by market capitalization, fell nearly 2%. Oh, no. Well, Bitcoin lost 1%. All right. Why is Solana up today? That must have been from yesterday. All right, Tesla likely still owns $780 million in Bitcoin despite their recent shuffle. Don't know. We don't know. There you go. Ryan Rendon says the number one way to support the channel is to hit the like button. And that is true. If you could hit the like button, I appreciate it. I have been rambling for 28 minutes straight. If you could tell, we swapped things up today. We had coffee. Killing it. All right. Bitcoin ETF $79 million outflows. Ends 2-week bull run amid sideways Bitcoin price. Michael, Henrich loves AI coins, Goat, Turbo, and Arrow, but not Tau. Okay. Crypto academics slam controversial ECB paper, blasting Bitcoin. Sailor's comments on big bank Bitcoin custody are BS insane. Is the Bitcoin price going to crash again? 90%, 94% of all Bitcoin is in profit. It's that 69K Bitcoin price was a local top. It's so funny that we do these things still. We still do this. Where are you? Where's the RTY? Let's get that off there. Okay. There's Bitcoin. There's the Russell 2000. Okay. All right. 95% of all Bitcoin to profit hints that it was the top. Blockchain can outfight AI fakes in crypto airdrop and elections. Bitcoin falls under 67K as stocks sell off, but Bitcoin derivatives are stable. There you go. There you go. That is what's going on in crypto land. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and hop into the chat. Please hit the like button before you weigh out. I know a lot of you guys bail out once we get through all of the rambling that happens in there. And then Ryan Rendon, happy birthday. What's going on? Check it out. We have the same birthday. All right, nobody just a witness gifted a BCB membership. Brother, thank you so much, man. Hans Loaded member for 17 months says it's Wednesdays, my dude. Thank you, brother. Wednesday, my dudes. Oscar Hernandez gifted 5 BCB memberships. Man, thank you so much. Oscar, my man, the legend of the channel. XP Market member for 18 months is a whale, man. Thank you, bro. Luke, member for 13 months says, everybody hit the like button. Have a good day, BCB. That's it too. You can see how sentiment is hurt in here, right? We have 1,800 people in here. We got 400 likes. People are like, I don't want to X out the chat and hit the like button. Come on, guy. You could do it. It's okay. Proud father of 5. Again, insanity. Hey, BCB, member for 11 months. Hey, BCB, let's speculate about SWE, ABC correction price target, and ultimate top price target. Thanks, brother. You know. Right. That's the first area of big interest. The question is, how deep does this have to go? Like, a lot of times you get back here and then you go ahead and have a big fat correction in range in here and then break out. This thing's already gotten up higher, right? It's already gotten up in here. So I'm not feeling confident guessing how deep will that go? Will that come all the way back down here? Will that just range right in here and then get its way back up? But in the event of the market getting out in here, the confluence I'll be looking for is if we end up seeing a market expansion like this, right? And at that same time, SWE is just kind of in this general area, $6 to $8. That's probably going to be the area where I'm thinking that's probably as high as it could possibly go. However, if it gets here significantly earlier than that, way before we see some big breakout happening in others, like if others is still down here, right? And we already see SWE getting up in here. I may be thinking much higher, but I don't, like we're talking, you know, $25, $30. But when you say stuff like that, people are going now for the next 5 months, people are going to say, hey, can you talk more about that $25 to $30 thing? And it's like, you have to get past that first. Right now, it's like that $8 area, $7-8 area. And it just depends on what the rest of the market is doing and if SWE is going to be some big major that goes way beyond that. But I think there will be confluence with it. There always is confluence in this market. We see things hitting retraces, extensions, and market caps at the exact same time. And, you know, the argument can be built at that time. Like, hey, look, maybe it's not going to do that 30 thing. Maybe it is only the $6, $7, or $8 thing. Here's why at the time. But, you know, those are kind of my two ideas. Somewhere between $6 and $8. And if that happens way before the market does like an expansionary move, it may be one of the big boys. It may be like the $30 one, $25, $30 or something like that. But, you know, buying up in here would terrify me. I could not be a buyer up in here at these prices on SWE. We were presenting the argument down here, right? This is where the argument was all presented on SWE. So most of my entries are up quite substantially on this, but it would terrify me to be making my first entry way up in here. You know, just how I do things. I buy things when people are screaming and mad and the market's depressed. And I like to sell things when people are screaming and euphoric and mad because we shouldn't be selling, right? Right here, it's kind of in the middle. I mean, you could try day trading it and, just be placing higher low stops happening in here. But that's not the trade I'm doing. I'm not doing some short-term trade. I'm trying to do an expansionary move. I'm trying to go for way up in here. And that could mean this thing has to draw down all over the place. But yeah, it definitely got higher than I thought it would. I thought it would get here before it would start correcting. And so it's gone even higher, which makes the picture a little more blurry for me on how a correction will look in here for SWI. Thank you, brother. David, member for 13 months. Hang in there, 702 crew. The slow grind is just a calm before the storm. Thanks for everything, BCB. David, thank you, brother. Nobody, just a witness with a super chat. Thank you, sir. It says, everything crashes except crypto with a use case and the transition to tokenization is made. It would be nice. It would be nice, but there's been no evidence of that. The only evidence has been a speculative asset class so far. However, in 2021, we did see that on average, the performance was better if there was development and users on the network, on average. XRP started its moon mission in March of 17 when others in Bitcoin were doing an ABC. Please tell me this is the content of your next XRP video. Dish me the opium. I don't know if it'll play out exactly like that, but conceptually to think about the idea that you're kind of talking about in there is the way to kind of view what's happening in the United States stock market. That a speculative low breadth bubble has been printed and that it took profit taking off of that extremely poor breadth, right? Where all the money flew into in the market. And once a profit take was made on that, that's where the rotational play happened throughout the market. And that's the conceptual idea of what we are seeing in the United States stock market right now. Whether it's exactly like that in crypto, like when because you're kind of talking about Bitcoin in particular, I'm not sure that's going to be it. It'd probably be everything together, and XRP would be involved in a moment like this. There's no independent bull run for XRP ever. It is always with everything else, and it always has been. And, people are, of course, frustrated and angry. Why is XRP not taking off? Look at this. You don't have an expansion happening in the market, and you guys are tired of hearing that, but it's been the same thing that we've said, all year long. And you just don't get it unless everything is expanding. And it's unsexy. It takes away the fantasy lore. It takes away all the stories, all the money, all the secrets upon secrets, and just lays it out in data form. And in data form, it's, what the heck is happening with the United States stock market? And a way to think of it is it's something like that. And you're essentially waiting for that moment on like NVIDIA, Microsoft, Apple. You're waiting for that to happen in there. The Dow Jones, the S&P, everything like that. And that you have something along those lines. It's the closest parallel you could draw to what we're seeing currently right now. Andrew Handelsman, I've never seen so much posting about XRP in my timeline other than the run up to $2. Yeah, it's been nice, right? There's people actually playing with their XRP for the first time. It's amazing. But, again, just remember, I'm not going to tell you what to do or what not to do, but do understand that when you're playing in the meme coin game, these are not investments. These are not. This is a game of winners and losers. And some people are better at the game than others. And if you walk into it thinking, I'm just going to buy a random meme that comes out and I'm going to 100x, you're not. You're going to get rug pulled in half a second because you don't know what you're doing. So try to take a look at them, watch what's consistent between them, and then, go from there. Night shift. It's a 22.5 days now for the win. Yeah, exactly. Jasmine, thank you, brother. Jassim, thank you very much. Silver is not following hold to in terms of correction. Silver is not following hold to in terms of correction. Not sure what your question is. I appreciate the super chat. It's very generous. But silver. Oh, is it following gold too in terms of correction? Ah, that's what it is. I got it. Silver. Is it following gold too in terms of a correction? Likely. Ben Van De Weed says, when will interest rates rise again and for how long? Did you know that if I had that answer, there are people who would pay me millions and millions of dollars to tell them that? If I had that answer. Like seriously, like Goldman Sachs would have me come over. JP Morgan would have me come over and pay me millions if I knew the answer. I don't have that answer for you, buddy. I'm sorry, man. Ryan Rendon, member for 50 months, which is, of course, over the 4-year mark. Bro, I don't remember the 4 years. I don't remember hitting the 48 with you, dude, but 50, bro. Thank you, blockchain backer. Hope the BCB squad has a great day. Oh, and don't forget to smash the like button. Man, thank you, Ryan. Of course, I've met Ryan in real life 3 times. At least 3. Is it more than 3? I think it's 3. Right? Consensus dinner, disc golf. I think that was it. All right. Dave's guy. Hey, BCB. Is the alt indicator grid still trending positively on 1 day and 2 day? It's a flip on indicator. It only flips like when bottom's happening. So no, it's not on right now. But it only flips in the event that a bottom has happened. So it flipped at the low. That's why I don't think we're going to crash. It literally stayed dead for 7 months, then flipped. Rodrigo Pimentel. Hey, BCB, open interest has been really high. Don't we need to clean up before going up? Highly unlikely it will go down without flushing the market. And we don't know if it's short interest too. And I understand what you're saying. Every time we get back to these peaks, open interest gets up, and then what happens? Boom, you flush them all out and go with it. But I think we're trying to make more noise out of it. Let's go back. You tell me, is it open interest on Bitcoin that's causing the price of Bitcoin to fall, or is it something else? You know what I mean? And there's always going to be open interest, short interest, long interest. I just don't think looking at that is where the alpha is on interest, right? This is the obvious thing that's happening in here. Now, there may be confluence to it. Now, if you find a way to measure open interest over there in the stock market, okay. But, I don't, it's obvious, right? It's obvious what's happening in here. See, Bitcoin flushed because of open interest? Really? Like, the Russell got hammered right there. Hammered. We had the highest VIX event happen in the U.S. stock market since C19 that day. Was it really open interest that caused that? Because it happened in the stock market too. It was the biggest VIX spike since March of 2020. So I'm just kind of bringing that. I'm not arguing with you in any mean. I think your question is super awesome because a lot of people look at that, right? But is it really that? Or is it just the broader market? And to my understanding, every time we shift up new levels, it doesn't matter. Open interest is always going to increase the higher we go. So even if we break out and go higher, we should be seeing open interest go even higher, even at that point too. But yeah, I mean, even in here, right? I mean, it would make sense too. Like this, hold on, let's talk about this, right? That if there's this sideways flush, there could be just two liquidations that happen in here. Boom, right? Boom, boom, right? And it's not really anything, but you can clean them up just like that too, right? Right as World member for 14 months, but thank you, Rodrigo, man, 15 months. Right as World 14 months says, thank you for being a voice of reason, giving facts, history, and truth to the people. Please give a birthday shout out to my wife, Sweetie. Thank you, BCB. Right as World's wife, Sweetie. Happy birthday. Martin Kelly, member for 10 months. Thank you for all you do, BCB, including the newsletters. I love them. The macro environment scares me, and I feel 2025 could be pretty bad. What are your thoughts? It's, I always say that people ask me, what's your 5-year outlook? You look back every 5 years. No, you could never have predicted anything that's happened 5 years ago. Predict 5 years forward. You couldn't have predicted C-19. You couldn't have predicted masks. You couldn't have predicted locked in your house and people work from home. Like the world is always changing every 5 years. But I don't think it makes people. I think there's a cognitive dissonance that happens when it comes to crypto, that we've just seen the same thing every 4 years. We've seen that on 2012, 2016, and 2020. We see expansions happen throughout broader markets all at the same time. And then people try not to mid-curve that, right? So they just say block reward halvings and just latch onto that. You can latch onto it to the goofy looking guy on the left, or the super secretive awesome guy who's got it all figured out in their life, but nobody wants to mid-curve it, right? No, just say block reward halvings and that's it, right? But you had the same macro environment every single time, 2012, 2016, 2020. So this is very different from those environments. And you have to say, what does it mean? What does it mean when the breadth does that? Like in historical context. And you got the 1960s and 70s with the Nifty 50. You got the Black Monday of 1987. You got the peak of the dot-com bubble. You got right before the GFC, and you have C19. You have a little bit of it sprinkled in there in 2015 and 2016 as well, where it kind of stayed range bound. And of course, those are bearish years for Bitcoin as well. And you have to draw a thesis of it and say, well, what could it mean? This doesn't mean expansion. It just doesn't mean expansion. And the only example we have where this can actually happen and that can happen is that eventually that happens. And that this was a rotational play as these guys took a little bit of profit, and that was actually the end of the whole bubble, and that was how that came to a conclusion. Otherwise, this Russell, if this was an expansionary time, should have been going along with this, and then that would be like 2012, 16, and 20 that led to 2013, 17, and 21 bull runs. And so, yeah, it's very, very different. And anybody not looking at it through that understanding of that, when these elements happen, it means the market is different, especially for the last 12 years in Bitcoin's life history. This is very different. And having to understand what does it resemble? What does it closely resemble? My working thesis right now is that when you mix in the macro elements of everything and the chasing of AI, tech, right, in the consolidation of assets into tech, we're much more resembling the 1998-2000 bubble top. However, the 1998-2000 bubble top It's more like being in moments like this, okay? It's like being in here, where you haven't gotten quite there yet, but like you're in here. And there's a lack of breadth. It's a chasing of just a few assets. The market's pushing into newer highs, but it's not taking the rest of the market with it. Or, yeah, like right in here. So that's kind of where we're at. And for Bitcoin, bubble structure is kind of like being in here on those green candles right there. That's what the US stock market is like. And that's the closest resemblance, that I see right now. And I've been spending a lot of time on this for the last week, trying to solve this. And it's just not an expansion, guys. It's no question to me, no question. And I hope we could get it right. I pray we can, because this is different. This is going to be tough. I do think this is like a bubble top rotational play that I think, because of how crypto acts and because of what we saw in March, right in there, right, you're trying to even say like this could be the top in March, or like this, we're at the retracements. This is where it can stop. The content creators, everybody turns against you, right? It's all this big attack. That if we get into the new highs, it's going to be the same thing, and it's going to be people saying we're just starting. This is just the beginning, but it really is going to be a situation of being like, we're going to look for two things in particular, okay? Like, this is really what we're going to watch for if it happens. It's that, there's some type of initial profit-taking kind of ABC that happens in here that includes the big boys, NVIDIA, Apple, Microsoft, Netflix. There's something happening in here, but then it can kind of recover, and in that recovery, the Russell gets out in here. That is going to be our big sign. We're almost done. And that's it. The game is over. And that's it. The game is over. So it's going to be watching for that to happen and for this escape to happen during that time. If those events happen, the parallels between bubble top rotations out of speculation into value, they'll be there. And we'll elaborate on that. We'll scream about that. And that'll just be how it is. But that's kind of the thing we're looking for, is a big fall, and not necessarily big, just a rotational play out of it. And so things I'm going to be looking for in the coming days that I'm kind of working on and haven't started yet, but I've been trying to Google, what are some of those signs you can be looking for? Because you can kind of see, like, Liz Saunders posts stuff about like how hedge funds are positioning themselves in the RTY more right now than they have been, right? And don't take this as an inverse Kramer thing, okay? I know retail loves to, anytime they see anything in hedge funds, they want to say inverse Kramer. Don't do that. Let me go find it. I got to find it. Here it is. Here we go. Okay, Liz Saunders says, sorry. Okay. I'm going to get this set up right. Okay. And right about there. Okay. large speculators, hedge funds getting more constructive on small caps. Their net positioning for the Russell 2000 futures is at the longest and highest since January of 2021. So as we could see in here, they really, I won't let me hover over there. I'm not going to point at it with my screen. You could see them being long positioned before the breakout happened in 2020. See how they go right just to the right of where my mouse is. They start going long on the Russell before the big breakout ends up happening in here. As the breakout is happening, they're swapping from long going to short, right? And they get that right? Then the whole thing starts crumbling down. It can't go really any higher in 2021. Then it crumbles all the way down in 2022. And they just kind of remain short through all of 2022 into 2023. Then finally a rip comes in there. It's probably where they do get wrong-footed on that rip, right? But then that suddenly, slowly, now they're starting to actually go into positive territory of being positive on the Russell, right? So I don't remember what the question was that got me on that. I don't know why. I don't know how I got on that tangent. Anyway, I found that interesting. How about that? I found this data point interesting. We were talking about rotations, right? So we're talking about, right? So are they already starting to put, so are they already starting? It was kind of the point, right? We were talking about, the bubble, comparing, things like that happening. Are they already starting to net position themselves for that to start happening, right? Kind of the idea, I think, is where we were going with all that. Yeah, that's what I'll say. Okay, moving on. Martin, thank you. Robert Baker, member for 17 months, says, hey, BCB, what are your thoughts on Atom? It has slipped down the ranks, despite being high in development. No particular thoughts in general on a higher developer coins. At a support level, I bought it. I'm in it. I don't have some thing on it that I'm like, hey, this thing is going to be absolutely amazing. There's people I respect who think that. I don't know enough about it to sit there and say I think it's going to be amazing. But I think it'll recover good. Otherwise, I wouldn't have bought it. Oscars Hernandez says, I think he used to say Bitcoin would just retrace and not reach a new all-time high, but that it did retrace to an all-time high. XRP would go to 20 and then $10. Is that what's happening? I literally will not commit to anything further than like $7, $8, $9, $10, guys. I know people want that so bad. Right? Like, get there. Dude, I will literally sell most of my bag. Right. Over half for sure. I don't know if XRP is going to be capable of getting higher than that, right? So like you could do simple stuff on like, do you think it could catch up to Ethereum, right? Like just doing mathematics like that, XRP right? Let's see if we could do a different one. Maybe Binance. Right, so like if Ethereum stayed still today and XRP went up, to a full-blown retracement versus Ethereum, it'd be 11 to 12x of what price currently is right now, right? If Ethereum, say, happens to like not ever expand and it only gets to right here, right? It's 36% higher. Add 36 on top of that, right? Almost gets back to the highest level it's ever been. It's historical resistance level, right? This is the highest it could ever get versus Ethereum right there, right? What if that still remains true and that's like the stopping point and you can't go any higher than that right there, right? That's like 16 times the current price. What is the current price? Like 52 cents, 53 cents. So 53 times, what do you do? 17.59. It's like $9.32, something like that, right in the numbers, right? So the numbers don't really change. It still always ends up in that area. So hard to have hopium beyond that. I think if we ever get that, I mean, I think we will all just celebrate and consider it the biggest miracle of our lives at this point, right? Was that moon math? Was that wrong? Did I get it right? 9 something? I think I'm right. I'm pretty good at math. I did just fart the numbers though. All right, BC, what are your thoughts on algo and its chart? I don't follow algo at all. Algo doesn't show up in any of the data that I ever see. This will be the last coin we do, guys, and we're gonna wrap it up. So the way I look at things is I just look at it from a mathematical standpoint. So when somebody asks me about Atom, right, it just comes in the mathematics of it all. Does it match certain requirements, right? One, I would like to see something have a 94% drawdown or less in the bear market, right? That's because when you go back through 2020's data and 2021's data, the statistical probability of setting a new all-time high was drastically improved or reduced if you got beyond 94%. If you got beyond 94% drawdown, the statistical probability of setting a new all-time high was reduced to 6%. 6% of coins were capable of setting new highs if they got beyond 94%. So for algo, 94% was right there. So it's a ding on it that it's gotten that far. I don't like that, right? So that's going to come into circulating supply issues, things like that. Again, I know like literally nothing about algo, so don't take it personal that I'm saying this. I'm just doing it from the math perspective and the way I look at things. Then I say, all right, well, okay, are we showing up on TVLs, right? Is there total value locked happening in there, DeFi happening in there, whatever, meme coins, user activity levels, NFT activity, anything like that? It doesn't show up in any of those things, right? So it's not ranked in any of those as well. And then, I'm looking over there on development activity, right? Is there at least like active development, placing it in like the top, top 50, 40, 20, really 20, right? I don't see it. So it doesn't check any of the boxes on like the data sets that I look at. So it's just something I don't pay attention to. And, you knowing something different about the coin than I do, it's fine. And it doesn't mean it can't have a pop-up happening in here. If the whole market does, we've clearly seen that it can. And this was a pretty decent reaction off of the low. But it's not a chart I'm actively watching often. But it's nothing personal or, you know what I mean? Okay. Cole says, I am so confused. XRP did take off while Bitcoin and the rest of the market had not expanded yet in March of 2017. XRP went up 1,000% while the market stood still. That's not true. Litecoin was taking off too. Dude, we've gone through this many times, Cole. I'm not going to go through that whole argument, dude. No, Bitcoin had bottomed. Bitcoin had started moving up. I'm not going to argue this because that's just not true. This is where it happened. Right after here, right? Coins start ripping. We go through that on this channel many times. It's all right here, right? So see what the Russell's doing. Russell's already ripped, right? Russell's already out too, right? You have expansion, Bitcoin lining up for expansion, And then you even have this, right? So this is one other thing too. When people talk so confidently about Bitcoin dominance and that Bitcoin has to go first, Bitcoin has to go first. Whoa, I almost let something slip. That is not what happened here, right? Before Bitcoin actually got into the actual escape, there were coins that started right there. David. All right. I think we're good. What are we? Oh, we're in an hour and 4 minutes. We're going to wrap the thing up. All right. That's going to be it, guys. Oh, we didn't do the frog very much. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and do the frog. Get through the wrap up. And hit the like button on your way out, guys. Thank you.
It is Wednesday, my
Whoa, those were hard swallows. Okay. All right, that's going to be it for this one today, you guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you for your support. I really appreciate you all tuning in here every week as we do this thing. Of course, you guys can check out the newsletter over there at blockchainbacker.substack.com. There's a link in the description of this video or this live stream. Also to bcbacker.com with over 40 videos and 11 hours of content teaching you how to set up your own charts and indicators within TradingView and CoinTrader Pro. Otherwise, guys, have a wonderful day. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you could, please like the live stream and give it a thumbs up. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.